Well, we've been getting a lot of requests to make a video showing our boat. So now that we've got some free time here in Namibia, we figured we'd give it a go. So here goes. So our boat's a little 30-footer, Hunter Vogel 30, built by Stoltz Boatcraft in Vancouver. And because it was built in 1970, it's really solid fiberglass, about an inch thick. We actually ran it aground in Fiji when our depth sounder stopped working, and no damage at all. We've also the boat's been through 2 cyclones, one on a mooring in New Zealand and one crossing the Indian Ocean. So it's very solid, full keel design with a keel hung rudder, and yeah, just all around a very good, solid, seaworthy boat. So we've got a oversized forestay, and we decided to go with Hank-on over roller furling, mostly just because it's quite a lot cheaper, but also it's lower maintenance. You don't have to replace the UV every couple of years, and if you get caught in a storm, it's really easy to drop, and you don't have to worry about the furling line chafing through and the sail just ending up with a full sail in the storm. So yeah, we've got 3 head sails. We have the working jib, Genoa, and our little blaze orange storm sail. The big downside of Hank-on is it's a lot of work. You have to go up onto the foredeck every time you want to change sails, and you probably end up changing sails maybe once a day or so. So yeah, if we were doing it another trip, I would probably go with roller furling. So here we have our little windlass. It's hand crank, which is nice. It gives us some exercise and keeps us in shape. And we've got our 30-pound anchor on 200 feet of chain, which has been plenty for everywhere we've stopped. And the nice thing with having so much chain is you don't have to worry about your anchor rod chafing through a coral or anything. And then here, it's a little bit covered up with everything, but this is our jack line. So when you're going forward, you have a harness with a tether that you clip onto there, and that way if you do fall overboard, you're still attached to the boat. So moving back, we've got our Crew Saver life raft. It's actually a 4-person life raft, and we've got it hooked up to a hydrostatic release unit. So if the boat sinks and we don't have time to deploy it, it'll wait till the boat's about 2 meters down, and then it'll deploy itself and float up to the surface. We went with a coastal life raft, mostly just because we didn't have enough money to buy an offshore one when we left. So for our jib sheet cars, we used frictionless rings, Antle frictionless rings, and they're just really low maintenance and much cheaper than a traditional block, like probably less than a quarter of the price. So for our electricity, we've got a 120 watt solar panel, which we bought in Australia to replace our old 75 watt. And it produces, if it's sunny out, it produces all the power we need. But then as a kind of auxiliary to that, we've got our 400 watt wind turbine back there. So if it's windy but not sunny, then that'll generate all of our power. This is our wind vane, one of our more important pieces of equipment for sailing offshore. It's essentially a mechanical autopilot. So it's got a wooden vane. It's not in right now, but it comes up out of here, and you can angle that so it's steered to the wind. And if the boat turns off of that, it pushes the vane over one way or the other, which in turn goes down and moves that rudder. Turns the angle of that rudder, so it'll move side to side, which produces, hooked up to a quadrant, which produces the power through these lines to pull the tiller back and forth and steer us. Well, we've got 8 winches on the boat, only 2 of which actually work. Luckily there are 2 primary sheet winches, which means that to raise and lower the sails we have to manually jump them at the mast, which again is good exercise and keeps us in shape. So we're in the galley right now. We've got a kerosene stove, which has a lot of benefits over propane in that it's very cheap to run, and you can find kerosene basically anywhere in the world. The big downside to it is it produces a lot of fumes, so ideally you have the hatches open while you're cooking, but we work around it. Moving on, we have 2 taps. We've got a hand pump tap, which is hooked up to a 100-liter tank in the keel, and then we have an electric tap, which is hooked up to 310 liters in water bladders. Moving over here, we have our dish bags. Got 2 of them. This is our more important one. We have an EPIRB, which is a distress beacon in here. Have some important paperwork in that waterproof pocket there. And then inside we've just got a medical kit. We've got a emergency desalinator, flares, some water and food rations, and yeah, that's about it for in there. This here is our satellite phone. It's an Iridium Go. Works great. We haven't had any issues with it. We can send text messages and emails through it as well as downloading weather forecasts. And here we have our AIS unit, which projects where all of the boats around us are onto our chart plotter, so we can see very clearly any hazards around us. Then we've just got our VHF radio. We actually replaced that in New Zealand. We were used to have a ancient unit which didn't work very well, so yeah, we replaced that. No, we've had no problems with it. It was just food storage, mostly cans and stuff in there. So in behind our stairs here we have our engine. It's a little 16 horsepower Vetus engine. It's basically just a tractor engine. It uses all the Mitsubishi parts, but it's converted for marine. So as you can see, it's a very small engine bay, and we spend a lot more time in here than we'd like. But for the most part, it's just fuel issues. We had when we were in Fiji, we replaced our old Raycor filter with this turbine filter, and that's fixed a lot of the issues. And then for our bottom tank, we have a auxiliary fuel tank in the keel, and we run that up through this filter into our primary fuel tank. Other than that, in here we have some storage, and this is one of our water bladders. It's a 120 liters, I believe. 120 liter water bladder. And yeah, that's about it for our engine bay. Well, this is our primary living space. We have 2 bunks. Got a short one here. We use this one mostly when we're sailing. We have a lead board that goes in here. It's a board about that tall that stops us from rolling off the bunk. And it's fairly essential for sailing offshore. And on this side, we just have a comfortable little sitting area with a table. We only really use this side when we're in port. Otherwise, we spend most of our time either up on deck or sleeping over on the other side. This side has all of our batteries in it. We have 2 Group 31 AGM batteries, which provides more than enough power. I think we can get like 5 days or so sailing offshore without having any charging from our solar or wind turbines. It also charges off of our engine when it's running, and then we've got a separate starter motor, or starter battery, which is just a standard 12 volt car battery, lead acid. And the rest of this we store, we have a larger medical kit over there, and then we store our kerosene and other things in here. And then under this side is entirely food storage. We've got lots of cans, and we also have 20 liters of water in a jerry can in there. And then back here behind the cushions we have spare parts, and then the rest is food storage. And same over there. Forward we have our fiberglass repair kit and all of that stuff, and then we have like noodles and stuff stored in the back there. Actually got 2 barometers here. We had this one and we weren't sure how reliable it was, so we bought this one when we were in Australia before crossing the Indian Ocean, because we really wanted to see what was going on since we were in the middle of cyclone season. They both seem to work. This one's slightly more accurate, our new one, and then we just have a clock up here, and we keep that on local time. Coming up forward here we have a head in here. That's just our bathroom. It's got a small toilet and a sink, and that's about it. And then over here, this is where we store all of our clothing, and we have charts for the whole world in here, as well as our standard world map. We also keep our offshore gear in here, as well as our drogue is right down at the bottom under this stuff. And then right up in the front here, this is normally a 2-person berth. There's a bunk here and a bunk over on the starboard side here, but since there's only 2 of us right now, we just use it for storage. Almost all of our sails are up here, and yeah, we keep our dinghy, roll-up dinghy in here as well when we're sailing. Yeah, basically it. It's a 30-foot boat, so there's not a ton of space, but we make it all fit.